Okay, is Mr. Peterson back? We're looking at Algebra 2 Notes, Section 2.1, and we're on page 3 here. Okay, this is they're called a vertical line test that I'm teaching here. And it says that if a relation is not a function, then at least one x-coordinate will be paired with 2 or more y-coordinates. If you recall on the last example, we had a 9 paired with a 3, and also paired with a -3. And that's what made it fail. It's not a function. Now, what this does is it puts the points 9, 3, and 9, -3 on the graph, and those will always be located above each other vertically, one above the other. So a quick visual way to tell if a graph is a function or not, is whether there's any points above other points that are also on the graph. And this is called the vertical line test. You can abbreviate V period, L period, T period if you want to say vertical line test. And it goes like this. If any vertical line passes through more than one point, the relation is not a function. So, for example, this parabola on part A down here, if we start slicing this, in fact, let me get a line going here. And, okay, here's a line. And I'm going to take that vertical line. It has to be a vertical line. And I'm just going to sweep it across to see if it hits that parabola more than once. And you can see that it's hitting, for instance, at this location, it hits only there. And if I take that line and I move it over a little bit, that vertical line, and I move it over a little bit, again, it only hits once. Well, if it only ever hits once, then you're definitely dealing with a function. So what you do if you don't have a tablet where you can move the line over is you just draw vertical lines here like this. Hang tight. Let me do a better job with that. And hits once, hits once, hits once. If it only hits once, it's a function. So both of these you're going to label yes. This is a function. And the one on the right here, yes, this is a function. Okay, it may be more instructive to you to see ones that fail. So if you draw a vertical line right through here, it hits once and hits a second time. So this vertical line test is a failure. That's not a function. And here there's a number of places you can show that it fails a vertical line test. I'll just do one over here on the right. Not a function. Every x value can only generate one y value. So for instance, if you go 5 to the right, you can only go one value up, not two values up and down. And if you have more than one y value with an x value, you always get points that are above each other. So the vertical line test is a very effective way to tell if it's a function. Okay, the next thing is function notation. And this is a very important notation. I'm discussing the way this is written down here, and it's got different parts to it. You have to know how this works. It's a very common way of showing things in upper division math and science. So we'll start with the name of the function. There's a letter in the front that names it. So in this case, with the F up here, this is function F. Hello, let me introduce you to function F. This function, this is function F. Now, if I put a different letter up there, you're contrasting it. You could have function G or function H. And we recycle these names over and over again. Okay, on the next part here, it says B. The number in the pocket right in there, or expression in the pocket, it specifies the input variable or value. So we have a little pocket, little parentheses, and inside is the input value or variable. or even expression, really. So if you're giving the cashier the number of pizza slices you want, you can give a specific number, 6 slices, and then you'd have a 6 in that little parentheses. But if you don't know what that value is, like somebody else is going to order pizza and you don't know how many they're going to order, you'll put a variable there, and that'll temporarily take the place of the number. So in this case, X is the input. Now on the right-hand side, you have the rule, or the actions. And it tells you what to do to generate the Y value. So in this case, if I gave you an X, you would multiply by 5 and subtract 2 to find the Y. That's what that means. Okay, one last thing before I move on here. The symbol taken together all at once is the same as the old Y value. So you have f of x. The x inside the parentheses is actually an x, or the input variable. But the symbol f of y taken together is the y value. Okay, a couple of things. When you put an f up against parentheses, in this context, it doesn't mean multiplication. You're used to that. Here's an example. 3 times 5 right here. But that's not what's meant when it's f of x. That does not mean f times x. It's f of x, and it's the f value, the function f's value when you have an input of x. The input is x, and the output, f of x, is a y, and you've probably had Algebra 1 teachers tell you just put a y in place of the f of x. So when you see a number in there, f of 8, then they're essentially telling you that x is 8. So in this case, f of 8 is going to be 38, and I'll show you the steps there. We're going to say 5 times 8 minus 2, which is 40 minus 2, and that would be 38. So you'd be plotting a point where the input was 8 and the output was 38, and that would be 8 units to the right of the origin and then 38 units up. So this takes us through page 3 of the notes, and we'll pick up on the other side.